Benro, and I am an artist in residence at the Burnt Sienna Art School in Berlin.
Burnt Sienna I discovered about, I think it was 6 years ago. Prior to that, I was sketching a lot. So I was doing a lot of like life drawing classes, like on Thursdays and Wednesdays, and going to classes and just drawing. And I thought that was all I was going to be doing. I was just drawing and drawing. I wasn't really painting. In the studios, I did my first oil painting for a reason. I've been connected to oil painting, so I liked seeing oil paintings. I never painted with oil because it always felt a bit daunting. You know, like it feels like something you're working in a science lab or mixing and all the chemicals. I just didn't understand how it all worked, so I never touched it. And now when I felt like I had some guidance, that's when I did my first residency. And I think I've lost counts, but I did it last year as well, and maybe the year before, the winter residency. So once the winter months comes in, I kind of end up in the studio, basically. I think inspiration-wise, a lot of the characters, I think I'm from the UK because I was raised there, but I was born in Nigeria. And so I think a lot of images like from folklore or stories that have been told, like, you know, stories that are just passed down to kids, or like campfire stories or like ghost stories. I don't really remember a lot of the stories because I was so young, but I remember the images that were like popped in my head. And I think as well, living in a place like Nigeria, it's like a whole different color scheme, you know, in textiles, in food markets and everything. So you're just like, you're constantly hit by colors, and predominantly primary colors. So I feel like my paintings, or the inspiration of my paintings, is like a connection to that, basically. I feel like it's my subconscious absorption of that world or that childhood, basically, that kind of comes out now in this. I'm fascinated by faces and like different proportional faces, and, you know, and what the definition of that should be. I think a lot of times I look at like older drawings, right? Like, I mean, I don't want to get too political, but I would look at older drawings and I see the depiction of how people would draw other people, basically, and, you know, how different races were drawn. So how, like, if you go back to old drawings, and then when there was still a lot of oppression in the world, then you would find that they would be drawn disfiguredly, basically. And I was referring to myself, like, I feel like when I look at some of these drawings, I'd be like, well, okay, that's back then, you know, people would be drawn with like bigger lips or big, and those deformations, and that's where those faces come from. But the ironic part of it, this particular painting, as you can see, is a bit more dark than the other ones, but I think sometimes then the color reflects where I'm at, basically. And I was watching a interview documentary on Basquiat, which everyone knows and loves, and he was asked, is there any anger in your work? And you for a second you could see in his face, he had this moment of like, can I really answer this question? Because if I answer this question, then I'm going to be portrayed as this angry black artist at this time, and maybe he didn't want. So you could see the thinking, and the interviewer is none wiser that this is what's going on. So he just kind of smiles and goes, what do you think? But I think it's him throwing back the question is like, do we need to talk about it? Isn't it obvious? And then I think that that really connected to me, because I feel like it's fine to do this, but sometimes it's hard to talk about it without going too personal and without going too political. And you kind of also want to just keep it to yourself, because that's the reason why you do this. It's kind of like, this is the expression of that, and everything else you keep it to yourself.